Ever
Stay
had a
with me
moment
now.
where doing the right thing could
Keep your
also
eyes
ruin
on
your
me.
life, yet you do
Help
it
is on
anyway?
the way.
That's exactly what happened on a rain-soaked back road in Alabama. And the fallout didn't just shock one family. It shook an entire police force. Rain hammered Derek Williams' windshield so hard it sounded like gravel, the wipers fighting to keep a clear view as his delivery truck rolled through a stretch of rural Alabama most people avoided after dark. It was close to midnight, the kind of hour where the world feels empty and every taillight in your mirror makes you wonder who's behind it. And Derek, 35, black alone, knew exactly what that meant out here. These roads were part of his route, though, and he'd learned long ago that life doesn't care what's convenient. Then he saw the flashing lights, red and blue, pulsing through the trees, and his stomach tightened. He slowed, pulled over, and stepped into the rain, boots splashing into runoff as he followed the strobing glow. What he found made his blood go cold. A police cruiser overturned in the ditch, smoke curling out of the hood. The front end crumpled like it had hit something that didn't move. In the driver's seat, slumped against the belt, was a young blonde officer with blood streaming down her face and soaking her uniform in the wrong places. Her name tag caught the flashing lights. Officer Jennifer Hayes. Derek moved to the shattered window and heard her voice, barely a thread. Help! Please. In that instant, Derek understood the full equation. Every variable, every risk factor, every ugly assumption the world might assign. A black man alone beside an injured white police officer on a deserted road at midnight? If anyone came upon this scene, Derek wouldn't be a good Samaritan. He'd be a suspect. He'd be the story before the facts even existed. He could already see it. Hands on weapons, shouted commands, the question not being, what happened? But what did you do? And Jennifer was fading fast. Her eyes were losing focus. Look that wasn't just fear, it was shock. Derek swallowed hard and forced his voice steady. The way you speak when you're trying to keep a system from cascading into failure. Hey, stay with me. What's your name? He scanned her the way a trained professional scans a patient. Pupils, breathing, pulse, obvious trauma, hidden trauma. Deep laceration on the forehead, likely concussion. But what alarmed him most was the dark stain spreading across her abdomen, wrong color, wrong speed. Internal bleeding. Jennifer tried to talk through pain. Jennifer Hayes, it was an ambush. She coughed, winced. They knew I was coming alone. Derek's brain snapped into a different gear. This wasn't a simple crash. Somebody set her up. Somebody wanted her hurt or dead. And now Derek was standing in the middle of it, holding the most dangerous optics imaginable. He had about 3 choices. Walk away and live with it forever, call for help and hope the signal worked, or act fast and accept the risk. Derek didn't hesitate. He tore his own shirt and applied direct pressure to the abdominal wound, hands moving with a precision that didn't match the delivery guy's story anyone would assume. He packed the wound, checked her airway, kept her talking, monitored for loss of consciousness. His movements were automatic, efficient, like he'd done this in places where hesitation got people killed. Jennifer's eyes flicked to him, surprised even in her haze. Do you know what you're doing? Derek didn't look up. Let's just say I've seen worse, he said, and his tone wasn't bravado. It was calm truth. He pulled his phone out. No signal. Of course. Rural dead zone, rainstorm, midnight. The road might stay empty another hour. Jennifer didn't have an hour. Derek made a decision that would change everything. He got her out of the car as carefully as he could, supporting her head, protecting her spine, then carried her through the rain to his truck and laid her. He drove one-handed, fast but controlled, keeping steady pressure on her wound with the other hand, eyes flicking between the road and her breathing, like he was running an instrument panel. Jennifer's voice was weaker now. Why, are you helping me? Derek looked at her in the rearview mirror, and for half a second you could see the weight behind his eyes. The history every black man in America knows without needing it explained. There were so many reasons to keep going. So many cautionary tales of men who tried to help and ended up punished for it. But she was bleeding out, and she had looked at him with something he didn't expect. Not fear, not suspicion, gratitude. Because it's the right thing, he said simply. 20 minutes later, he burst into the emergency room at Regional Hospital, soaked, breathing hard, his hands red, his shirt shredded. Officer down, he told the staff, voice sharp and clear. Gunshot wound to the abdomen. Possible internal bleeding. Head laceration. She needs surgery now. The medical team didn't ask him who he was. They saw the urgency. They saw the patient. They moved. Jennifer disappeared behind swinging doors, and only then did Derek feel the tremble start in his arms as adrenaline drained and reality rushed in. He looked down at the blood on his hands and clothes, and a cold thought hit him. If the wrong person walks in right now, this becomes my problem before it becomes her rescue. 3 hours later, Captain Robert Hayes arrived, Jennifer's father, uniform crisp, face hard, eyes sharp with panic and authority. He spotted Derek sitting alone in the waiting room, soaked and stained with his daughter's blood. The captain's gaze locked on him like a weapon sight. "You," he said, voice low and dangerous. "You brought my daughter in?" Derek stood slowly, hands open, posture non-threatening. "Yes, sir, I found her on the road near—" "I don't care where," Hayes cut in. "I want to know why a man like you was on that road at that." The accusation dressed up as a question. The assumption wrapped in procedure. Derek felt anger flare hot, familiar, but he kept his voice controlled because he'd learned the hard way that emotion gets used against you by people looking for an excuse. "I'm a delivery driver," Derek said evenly. "That road is part of my route. I can show you documentation." Captain Hayes stared at him like he was deciding what story he wanted to believe. And if this had been the end, if Jennifer survived and Hayes simply said thank you, this would still be a powerful story. But what happened next is what shocked the entire department, because the truth about Derek Williams wasn't what anyone in that town expected. Over the next 3 days, Derek was called in for questioning again and again, 4 times, always under the guise of standard procedure. Yet every question carried a shadow. How did you know exactly how to treat a gunshot wound? Why were you on that specific road? Did you know Officer Hayes beforehand? Derek answered with methodical patience, the kind you develop when you've spent years managing high-stress situations without losing your head. "I'm a delivery driver for Williams Distribution. My logs show my route. My GPS history is there if you request it. I stopped because a human being was dying." Captain Hayes wasn't satisfied, because this wasn't really about facts. This was about discomfort, about a world where the wrong person was the hero. And what Hayes didn't know, what Derek had learned to keep locked down because it made people nervous, was that Derek wasn't just a delivery man. Derek Williams had spent 8 years in the Marines as a combat medic, 3 of those years attached to special operations units. He'd treated catastrophic injuries in places most Americans only see in news clips. He'd applied tourniquets in dust storms. He'd stabilized chest wounds under fire. He'd coordinated medevacs while rounds snapped overhead. Compared to that, to certain minds, a black man with elite training doesn't become more trustworthy. He becomes more threatening. During the 4th interview, Hayes finally dropped the mask. "I'll be blunt, Williams," he said, leaning forward. "My daughter was investigating a drug ring with ties to people in your social circle. It's quite a coincidence you showed up right when she was attacked." Derek repeated the phrase slowly, as if testing it for defects. "My social circle? Don't play dumb," Hayes snapped. "We know trafficking in this region has connections to certain communities. And you were there." The directness of it was almost surreal. Derek had saved Hayes' daughter's life, and Hayes was turning the rescue into a suspicion engine powered by prejudice. Derek's voice stayed icy calm. "Captain Hayes, your daughter is alive because I stopped when anyone else might have kept driving. If that bothers you, maybe reflect on what you value." 2 hours later, Derek walked out of the station and found Jennifer waiting in the parking lot. Pale, still sore but upright, in jeans and a simple blouse that made her look younger than her 24 years. "Derek," she said, eyes sincere. "I'm sorry, I know my dad is being awful." Derek studied her. Jennifer didn't have her father's hard suspicion. She had something else: integrity. "He thinks I'm connected to whoever attacked you," Derek said. Jennifer shook her head, furious. "You saved my life and he treats you like a criminal. It's shameful." She paused, then asked the question that had been sitting in her mind since the night of the crash. "Where did you learn field medicine? What you did? That wasn't basic first aid." Derek hesitated. He'd spent years trying to live quiet, to not invite attention, to not make himself a target. But she deserved the truth. "I served 8 years in the Marine," he said. "Combat medic. Last 3 years was special ops." Jennifer's eyes widened. "Special forces? Derek, why didn't you tell my father?" Derek let out a short laugh that wasn't funny. "Because to men like your father, a black ex-military man isn't a hero. He's a threat." Jennifer went quiet, and in that silence was a painful recognition. He was right. 2 days later, Derek found out how right. Captain Hayes pulled Derek's record through his contacts, and instead of seeing commendations and discipline, he weaponized it. Around the station, a news story started spreading, whispered then spoken openly. Derek Williams has military training. He knows how to hurt people and make it look like an accident. He showed up at the scene convenient, isn't it? The narrative infected the town fast. Derek began noticing stares on his route. Stores that had greeted him for years suddenly acted busy. People who had once nodded now went silent. He overheard it at a supply store. Heard that black guy has special training. Bet he set it up so he could look like the hero. Derek kept moving, jaw tight, carrying boxes like nothing was wrong, but it cut deep in a way war never had. War was honest about hostility. This was betrayal disguised as concern. That night, Jennifer called him, voice tense. Derek, you need to know what my father's doing. He's spreading rumors. And I think I have something real. They met at a cafe outside town, away from the station's eyes. Jennifer slid her phone across the table. Before I blacked out, I managed to record some audio, she said. I caught part of the attackers. Derek listened. Distorted voices, rain noise, movement. Then his body went still. In the background, faint but unmistakable, was a voice he recognized from the interrogations. Jennifer, Derek said quietly, handing the phone back, that's Detective Tom Bradley. Jennifer blinked. That's impossible. Bradley is my father's right-hand man. 15 years. Derek's gaze sharpened. The same tactical focus that keeps people alive when things get real. 15 years is enough time to build a very solid scheme, he said. Jennifer swallowed. I was investigating municipal contracts, she admitted. Shell companies winning bids at inflated prices. 3-year pattern. Same names. Same circle. Derek nodded slowly. And who signs off before it moves forward? Jennifer hesitated. My father sees everything first. The air between them changed, because now the story wasn't just about a rescue and a prejudiced captain. It was about corruption, money, and a department that might be compromised at the top. Over the next 3 days, Derek did what he'd tried to leave behind. He ran quiet surveillance, analyzed patterns, documented meetings. He followed Bradley on off-duty nights and watched him meet 3 men at the same bar. Marcus Webb of Webb Construction, one of the contract winners, Dale Morrison, the mayor's advisor, and James Fletcher, a businessman with deep political donations. Derek photographed them from his truck, time-stamped, methodical. Every Tuesday, same pattern. Bradley always left 10 minutes early, always made a call from the parking lot, too consistent to be random. Then Jennifer called again, shaken. My dad says he has reliable information you're stalking me. He's talking restraining orders. He literally said men like you get obsessed with white women they save. Derek exhaled slowly, seeing the play clearly now. Discredit the witness, flip the narrative, isolate Jennifer, paint Derek as predator, keep the investigation buried. Jennifer, you need to trust me, he said. I'm going to look distant. It's because I'm building proof. Don't let him pull you off course. That Friday, Derek planted a discreet recorder at the bar Simple, close range then, sat and waited, heart thumping with the old adrenaline he hadn't felt in 5 years. The talk started casual, then shifted after a couple rounds. Webb lowered his voice. Bradley, that cop is messing with contracts again. Thought you handled it. Bradley's reply came cold. Temporarily, she's stubborn, and now she's got that black guy sniffing around. Almost isn't enough, Bradley said. Monday, I'll suggest Hayes transfers her to night patrol out in the country. Isolated. And this time, we make sure there are no witnesses, no improvised heroes. Derek left without a sound. Now he had what he needed. A confession, a plan, a network. But he also knew you don't hand this kind of evidence to a compromised chain of command and hope it ends well. He worked through the night building a dossier, photos, recordings, contract data, timelines, backups engineering the case so it couldn't be quietly deleted. Monday morning, 6 a.m., he called Jennifer. Wear this recorder, he told her, handing her a small device. When your father suggests the transfer, accept. Jennifer's eyes widened. Derek, that's dangerous if they move, he said. Calm as steel. They won't get a second chance. At 10:00 a.m., Derek walked into the police station carrying a worn leather briefcase. The receptionist stared at him like the rumor had become flesh. Derek didn't flinch. "I need Captain Hayes," he said. "It's about his daughter's safety." Hayes stormed into the hallway, angry. "Williams, I told you to stay away from my daughter. If you don't leave now," Captain Derek cut in. "Listen to this." He pressed play. Bradley's voice echoed through the station. "Monday I'll suggest Hayes transfers her to night patrol out in the country. Isolated." Hayes's face drained. "What the hell is this?" "A recording from Friday night," Derek said. "Your detective confessing to arranging the ambush and planning the second attempt." Derek opened the briefcase photos, spreadsheets, contract links, laid out like a clean forensic build. 15 years of laundering through municipal contracts, Webb Construction, Morrison, Fletcher, Bradley coordinating. Right then, as if the universe wanted maximum clarity, Detective Bradley walked into the station stop dead when he heard his own voice. Panic flashed across his face. "Hayes, don't listen to this lunatic. He's..." Derek played the next clip. Racial obsession. The hallway fell silent in a way that felt physical. Officers gathered, eyes darting between their captain and the detective they trusted. Jennifer stepped out from the records room, pale but steady. "Dad," she said, voice firm. "Derek saved me twice. On the road and now here." Bradley tried one last move. "You're going to believe him over..." "Ex-military," Derek corrected, pulling out documentation. "Not ex-convict." He turned to Hayes, voice controlled, not triumphant. "Captain, for 2 weeks you treated me like a criminal because I'm black. You called my competence suspicious, my presence threatening. Meanwhile, the man you trusted was plotting to murder your daughter." Hayes looked like a man watching his own worldview collapse under the weight of real data. Bradley was cuffed on the spot. As he was led away, he spat. "You don't know who you're messing with," Derek answered quietly. "I know exactly who small men who confuse power with impunity." Cameras arrived. Reporters swarmed. The story went national. The delivery driver who saved a cop and exposed corruption, except the truth was deeper. Derek hadn't been a random passerby. He'd been a trained professional who chose dignity over bitterness and action over fear. 6 months later, offers poured in: security firms, consulting contracts, speaking invitations, but Derek chose the path that actually repaired systems instead of just profiting from their failure. He opened Williams Security and Training, teaching departments field medicine, de-escalation, and operational ethics, the things that keep people alive and keep institutions honest. Jennifer joined him, now a detective, refusing to inherit her father's blind spots. Captain Hayes was forced into early retirement, not just for the Derek case, but for a documented pattern of discriminatory behavior. And months later, in a quiet parking lot after a city ceremony, Hayes approached Derek with a face stripped of arrogance. "I don't expect forgiveness." Derek studied him, then extended his hand. "Forgiveness isn't about you deserving it," he said. "It's about me refusing to carry your hatred." Hayes shook his hand with tears in his eyes, and in that moment, the entire story clicked into its final shape. The greatest shock wasn't that a black man saved a police officer or that corruption hid behind badges and contracts. It was that the man everyone tried to villainize chose to build something better anyway. So tell me, if you were Derek, would you have stopped on that road knowing what it could cost you? And if you want more stories where courage meets real consequences and truth forces broken systems to change, subscribe, because the next one will stay with you too.